Today, I am very pleased to introduce Terry Kerkovich and the Autism Quality of Life podcast. Terry will earn her doctorate in clinical psychology from Indiana University at Indianapolis in 2017. She has over 10 years of experience working with individuals with autism in educational, therapeutic, and residential settings in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Nebraska, and Denmark. As a future licensed psychologist, she plans to continue developing programs and services in Indianapolis to improve quality of life for Hoosiers, teens, adults with autism, and their caregivers. Terry is also the very proud sister to her brother Matthew, who is diagnosed with autism. Terry, could you please share a little bit more about yourself for our listeners, please?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Terry Kerkovich, and I'm currently pursuing my doctorate in clinical psychology. And I also have a brother who's on the autism spectrum. And so due to my interest in the existing programs and services for adults with autism, I am developing this podcast, which will be launching in a couple of weeks here. And I just wanted to take this time to share some information about the podcast and to really describe what the goals for this podcast are.
Excellent, thank you. Please share with our listeners about the Autism Quality of Life podcast.
Sure. So really the mission behind this podcast is to promote quality of life for both individuals with autism, primarily teenagers and adults, as well as their family members. So I aim to do that by interviewing entrepreneurs, business leaders, and innovators who are in the field of autism, currently working to develop services and new models for adults with autism.
Excellent. How do listeners learn more about Autism Quality of Life podcast?
Great question. Well, to learn more about the podcast, you can visit us on Facebook. And so our page is called Autism Quality of Life podcast there. And we also have the Twitter handle of Quality of Life for Autism, spelled out as QOL, the number 4, and ASD. So QOL for ASD. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to continue listening to our future interviews.
Terrific. And Terry, what inspired you to create Autism Quality of Life?
Well, really a number of things. So from a personal point of view, growing up with my brother and watching him as he got older and just thinking about what his life would become as an adult, what types of services he would really be participating in, whether that be from a recreational and leisure standpoint to where would he be living, with who, what kind of services would he have access to. And as a doctoral student in psychology, I've also researched a lot of the outcomes for not only individuals on the spectrum, but also for their family members and caregivers. So thinking about the stress and burden that gets placed on those caregivers and the decisions they have to make over time, and really just wanting to help make the lives better for these families who are impacted by autism. My hope that through the platform of this podcast, I can share these programs and resources with families as well as professionals to help improve quality of life.
What are the next steps for your work with Autism Quality of Life podcast?
So once the podcast is launched, I aim to release an episode approximately once each week, and to conduct interviews with these thought leaders and business owners and entrepreneurs to be able to share that with the community.
Excellent. And Terry, what is the best way to receive updates about Autism Quality of Life?
Through any of our social media channels, you can learn more about the podcast there. And we also have our website, which is currently in the works, and once that is ready, we will let everyone know via our social media channels.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.